At the end of the day, these things are just that, things. And what's important is actually the way that we use them, how we optimize them to benefit our lives and add value rather than distraction. I also think about the privilege it is to have that choice whether to buy something or not, and that makes a big impact when I am looking at things to buy. I want to enjoy my life, but I also don't want to clutter it with crap. Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about the 10 best purchases I've ever made and why. As part of my low buy year and minimalism series, I think it's really important to reflect on the things that we have purchased that in the past and have actually brought a lot of value into our lives. Because in reality, there are some purchases that are truly life-changing, however small. If you're new here and want to see all things sustainable, seasonal eating, habit building, etc., then make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so that you never miss another video in this series. And if you do like the video, please give it a thumbs up because it really supports me in the YouTube algorithm. So the first thing I want to talk about is my e-reader. Now, I use a Kindle. I would choose to use a Kindle nowadays because I think it's owned by Amazon, but I bought it back at least 7 or 8 years ago now. And yeah, it's definitely been a very big staple in my life. If you follow me on Instagram or you follow my book club, Immy's book club on Instagram, then you'll know just how many books I read. But this was not always the case. I read a lot of real books as well, but the moment I bought this e-reader, a lot of things really changed for me. Our brains truly love novelty, and so obviously having a new thing to play with was incredibly exciting. I started off by reading a couple of pages, and then I eventually finished my first book. But slowly over time, I found myself finishing book after book after book. And the initial novelty of having this new item, it really transformed my evening routine. I ended up reading before bed every single night, even if it was just a few pages. And then sometimes I'd go to bed particularly early just so I could spend 3 hours reading this book. So I was literally in bed by 7 p.m. Over time, this habit developed into reading non-fiction books as well as fiction, things related to climate change, behavior design, and then some that intermingled the two together. And slowly I really became a reader and someone that really indulged and just truly began to love learning. And I owe a lot of who I am today to that choice. Honestly, it made me so easy when I moved house, because obviously moving house every year when you're at university, when I traveled, when I moved to my year abroad, just having all of those books in my back pocket was just amazing to be able to reference them and go back. And now, don't get me wrong, I love real books and I still read a lot of real books in paper copies. And I'm sure the right book at the right time would have had the same impact on me. It made it really easy to buy books. It made it cheaper to buy books. It made it a novelty that, because I'd invested money in this thing, I wanted to make sure I was actually using it and hadn't wasted however much it cost me. It also helps me because my preference now is to read several books in one go. And if I'm going somewhere, I just have them all in this book, on this reader, and I can just choose to which one I want to read when. And I won't lie, as I do read so many books, being able to buy them at a cheaper price makes it much more affordable to buy and read so many books, especially because they have deals very often. Like when I bought Digital Minimalism, it was just 99p, so that made it so much more affordable and accessible to read so much. And this was especially helpful during university and when I had my first job where I wasn't earning very much money. The next one is arguably the most important of all time, and it was my first ever camera. I began my YouTube channel by using my iPhone 3 to video everything. I videoed everything on this little phone and I loved it. And over time, as my channel started to grow a bit and I started to get views, which was shocking to me at the time, I started to decide that maybe it was time for my first camera. I spent hours learning how to use it, what ISO and aperture meant, how to compose the perfect image, how to make sure that different lighting looked nice, understanding that natural light is queen. It gave me a hobby and a passion that has been completely unrivaled ever since. And of course, it ended up being a tool that I use every single day in, my personal life as well as my job. I use it all the time, every day, to further my message of sustainability, whilst also being the perfect creative outlet to continually learn. No matter how good or shit your camera is, there is so much that you can learn from it. I mean, I have a friend, she's huge on Instagram and she just uses her iPhone to take photos because she just wants to, build composition, create a mood, and that doesn't matter how good your camera is. The next one is a journal, and I've been someone who has journaled on and off for several years, and for some reason, finally this year, it has just absolutely clicked for me and has been such a great thing. If you're like me, you probably have a bunch of lovely journals made from different things, from recycled materials, from sustainable things, have different beautiful coverings, all of these different things. And if again you are similar to me, they'll be half full or half empty. And what I've been doing recently, now that I have finally got into the habit of it and do it every single day, sometimes multiple times a day, I've gone back over and found every journal that I have, and I've started using up every single blank page, because to buy a new journal when you have one that's half empty is quite unacceptable in my opinion, and I am guilty as charged of that. So I've been going through and just filling up the pages with whatever I just want to write for the day, and it has been a joyous experience. There have been many times over these past 3 lockdowns that I have felt incredibly lonely. I'm used to having friends around to talk with about, when things are going well, when things aren't going well, talking about my anxieties, talking about things that have upset me or made me happy, and not being able to have my friends around to do that face to face has had a huge impact on me, as I'm sure it has many of you. And so when I decided to start journaling again, everything that I've been thinking and feeling for the past year just fell out of me. Believe me, it really surprised me too. It's really helped me to believe in myself and my abilities. It's helped me to workshop problems and work through complex emotions that I couldn't quite just get out in my head. It's helped me to plan and write schedules for my days, and it's helped me to affirm things that I should have been telling myself for years. I always end every single entry with some kind of affirmation that's either important for the day or just important for life and building resilience and confidence. And I really suggest, if you do any journaling, to either start your day with an affirmation, writing it down, or to end it. I used to think that affirmations were naff and just not science backed or anything, but I've read a lot of compelling evidence that says quite to the contrary, so I would highly recommend it because it has definitely been working for me. The next one is my lovely gold reusable pen. At the end of 2019, I bought myself this beautiful golden reusable pen, and I told myself that this pen was to signify hope and hard work for the year ahead, which we're all laughing at now, aren't we? Well done, of course. I hoped it would sit on my desk looking beautiful and just inspire me to write down incredible ideas and get creative and journal and do all of these wonderful things. And while 2020 was a complete shit show, there were some positives that happened throughout the year in terms of, work that I did, brands that I was able to work with, connecting more with my audience. And while I cannot attribute those to this pen, it has been a companion that has written my thoughts, planned my days, and affirmed my feelings. And because I place such a high value on something that's seemingly so insignificant to many, I have begun to realize that I find joy in the simplest of things, like writing down things like, today I feel happy. The next one is my reusable coffee cup. Now, unfortunately, I don't have the original one that I bought, but I do have one now, obviously, that I still use, but let's talk about the first one. This arguably began my first actionable step towards sustainable living. While now I see the whole area of sustainability in a much more nuanced and big picture way, I definitely attribute my success in sustainability, kind of my own personal journey, to this first action. I think we often underestimate just how important action is, especially when we've been thinking about something for a long time, or we've been talking about it. Action is what transforms us from being who we are to being who we want to be. And that coffee cup, it helped me change from someone who didn't care about much to someone who cared about a whole lot. Number 6 is dumbbells. If you've watched any of my videos that are like get healthy with me during lockdown, or my last video on, ultimate self-care weekend, then you'll know that I've got into home workouts in a big way. But as I've said before, it has not always been this way for me. I relied upon group workouts, going to my gym and just simply being told what to do. They offered the perfect escape for me. The hardest part was just simply showing up. And then once I got there, everything was prescribed, I got shown how to do things, and I just got given a time limit and then said go. My mind was always intensely focused on what I was doing, if it was a difficult compound Olympic lift or if it was a really cardio intensive workout that was so intense that I couldn't think about anything else, or it was just so completely enjoyable that I just lost myself and sense of anything else that was going on in my life, in the world, for 45 to 60 minutes most days. So when the gyms closed during lockdown, I was completely lost. I tried to stick at it for quite a few weeks, and then I just gave up because I hated it. I hated working out on my own, and sometimes my sister would bully me to work out with her, and it was a little more enjoyable, but I just decided I don't like it. I don't want to. It's not the same for me, and I'm just gonna do nothing. But this really, really went in a different direction. Not only did I do nothing, I started eating more unhealthily, and it just was a chain reaction. And fair enough, it could have been the right thing for me at that time, but that's what happened, basically. But as the months ticked by, I began to get agitated, I became a lot more grumpy, I was finding it much harder to work through any complex emotions that I was feeling, and I just was generally quite unpleasant to be around. After going back to the gym for a brief period over the summer, around August I think, and September, and before the second lockdown, I was able to go to the gym, and it reignited that feeling in me of what it really feels like to move my body and to make sure I am exercising. So I decided to buy some dumbbells. I bought one pair of 10 kilograms and then just one singular 15 kilogram. And luckily my dad already had a pair of 6 kilograms. So that was a pretty nice sort of well-rounded set. But the most important thing was that I found 2 YouTubers who used dumbbells in all of their workouts and made a huge impact. I used Sydney Cummings to kind of get back into working out, and then from there, when I got stronger and fitter, I moved on to Caroline Gervin. And I'm pleased to say those dumbbells have been used many, many times, if not every single day, not only by me, but my sister and also my dad. Those dumbbells were important because they helped me to build up that habit again. It helped me to build resilience and grit and self-efficacy. It taught me that even though I can't have what I ultimately want, there are ways to create the same feeling in a different place. It's taught me so much about having to adapt to a different situation. At first, I just thought, do you know what? I can't adapt, I'm not going to do it. And slowly over time, I found ways and I managed to make it work for me. And now I actually love working out at home. Of course, when the gyms reopen, I'm going to be stoked. But for now, I am so happy. And these dumbbells, they will last forever. The next one is my sunrise alarm clock. This is quite a recent purchase. I only got this in January and I really, really thought about this. It's changed my life, guys. I'm not a morning person, although you might think that I am, but I'm not. I like to be up early, but I don't like getting up early, and therefore, so I haven't. Especially through the long winter months when it's been really dark, it's just been impossible to get up. I no longer use my phone as an alarm clock because I like to keep it out of my room. I used to use my Fitbit watch, but I've actually sold that this week, which I'll talk about later. I needed something that would help to gradually wake me up to the sound of Tweety birds. Ugh, it's just so good. So, of course, the benefit of the sunrise clock is it mimics sunrise, and therefore it wakes me up really slowly and gently for about 45 minutes. And then at the time that I want to be awake, it will release the sound. The sound. You can even choose goats, which is quite bizarre. But during the weekday, I choose Tweety Tweety birds, and then at the weekend, I have the sound of waves because I just like to have some differentiation. Gone are the days where I hear that traditional alarm noise and I just shudder in my bed thinking, I've got to get up now. It's just a horrible, I just don't like it. For me, it eases into awakening for the day. It helps me to wake up feeling somewhat refreshed and just allows me to start my morning routine in a more positive mood and on a more positive note as well, because I haven't been shocked awake, you know. If you've used one, I would love to hear your thoughts about it as well. My sister also has one, and she says it changed her life too. And we're not being dramatic. Honestly, it has changed my life. And I got up at 6 today. Got a lot done. Feeling good about it. It's the clock. Number 8. arguably two things, but it's Tiny Habits by BJ Fogg, a book, and Deep Work by Newport. These two books have taught me so much and continue to teach me and have imprinted themselves on my brain every single day of my life now. And I've mentioned them to you guys a million times because the value that they give me just comes back and repeats itself time and time again. I should really also add maybe Atomic Habits by James Clear. I know I've talked about before preferring Tiny Habits, but rereading Atomic Habits, it does offer other things like talking about building systems, and I've been using a habit tracker again, which has been fundamental. I'm loving it because it just reminds you of the habits you're supposed to be doing, because that's my thing. I have a very goldfish brain. Like, I forget things all the time unless it's written down. So the habit tracker has been really good for that. So yeah, I'll include that book as well. Our lives are simply compound interest of our daily habits over time. 6 months from now, who we will be a direct result of the habits that we have started building today. Be it reading, drinking more water, meal prepping, remembering your reusable bags, meditating, journaling. Every single action that we take is a step towards being the person that we want to be. I feel so indoctrinated into this theory of, around systems and tiny habits rather than goals, because I've already seen incredible changes in my life and my attitude and my more easygoing nature when things do go wrong or do become more stressful. And that is completely attributed to my daily habits of meditating, journaling, building systems so that when things go wrong, I can remain calm. Okay, don't worry guys, we're getting into the last two ones now. Number 9 is not a tangible item at all, but rather, back in 2014, maybe this should be the best purchase I've ever made, and it is. A flight back to Michigan after the end of my year abroad, and just before my final year of university at Sussex. Almost 7 years ago, I finished my year abroad at the University of Michigan, and I headed home to the UK. I spent the whole summer working and hanging out with friends, saving money for my final year of university, and just trying to enjoy summer in London. Towards the end of the summer, I made a pretty huge and life-changing decision to buy a flight back to Michigan for 6 weeks before the start of my university. British universities at that time started at the beginning of October, whereas Michigan always started at the kind of like end of August, beginning of September, but everyone went back in August. I bought a ticket to go hang out with my friends that I had left behind, but also the man that I had been seeing during my year abroad. Getting that extra time together, those extra 6 or 7 weeks, really was the main reason why we decided to keep things going and to see if this was something worth pursuing, at least in the short term. Now, 7 years later, we are still together, albeit very much still long distance. But this person has supported me through all of my career options after leaving university, throughout my last year of university. He championed me when I decided to quit my job and try YouTube full time, and has been the best adventure companion I could ever have asked for seeking a life of meaning and discomfort in a good way, and bettering ourselves so that we can be truly happy. This purchase was not a tangible thing, but it just goes to show that not all good things come in the form of material purchases, but instead in the experiences that we invest in. Okay, the last one, arguably incredibly boring, but still very much worth it. And that is a decent pair of headphones. The reason why I bought these headphones was not a good reason. It was definitely tied to irrationality and emotion, but I'm very glad and very grateful that I did buy those, because I'm the kind of person that needs absolute silence to work. Literally absolute silence. This becomes quite impossible if you live in a very small flat in London with a flatmate who is the complete opposite to you, who wakes up in the morning and turns on BBC Radio 4 and so that the whole flat block can hear, and then, talks to her machines, and then our dog Ralph. We don't have carpet in our flat, and if he hears anybody talking or anything going on, he gets FOMO and he comes out from his little bed. You can just hear ch 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 ch, and even that annoys me. So I began to use my headphones to block them out so that I could get work done, so I could just get on. And then over time I started using them for other things. I started using them for meditation because I found it really hard to just concentrate, so I'd block out the other sound. Then I would reward myself for going for a walk with a podcast that I really wanted to listen to. And then it kind of became a vehicle for learning, adding to my productivity and how best that I work. At the end of the day, these things are just that, things. And what's important is actually the way that we use them, how we optimize them to benefit our lives and add value rather than distraction. When we begin to minimize our physical spaces and our digital spaces, we do tend to see the value that some items once held for us and will do so again and again, because often we forget. That's what's been happening for me during my low buy year so far. And having decluttered some items from my wardrobe after filming that video, I tried on everything in my closet. It's completely transformed my approach to purchasing new things. I now question whether something adds not just value, but enough value to warrant spending money on it and bringing those things into my space. This is one of the reasons why I sold my Fitbit. It completely transformed my relationship to walking and getting outdoors. It just completely came all about the step count, and rather than the impact that it had had on my mental health and my brain in just such a positive way, which was the original reason why I started walking in the first place. Assessing value added or lost and how much is an incredibly positive and great way to approach purchasing new items, and of course decluttering as well. And I'm stoked that my brain is finally realizing the power of experiences over material items, whilst also holding space for some of these material items that will definitely have and have had a huge impact on my life. I also think about the privilege it is to have that choice whether to buy something or not, and that makes a big impact when I am looking at things to buy. I want to enjoy my life, but I also don't want to clutter it with crap. If you haven't seen my video on things I am not buying this year, then I'll put it just here, and I think it would be quite good for you guys to watch. But for now, thank you so much for watching this long video, and I hope to see you on Sunday. Bye.